But here is SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey.
Look at the track record. We didn't need 12. Did we stayed at 4, we would have had half the 4 last year. I don't need lectures from others about good of the game. I don't lecture others about good of the game. Coordinating press releases about good of the game. Again, okay, you can issue your press statement, but I'm actually looking for ideas to move us forward. I thought the 12-team design was really well considered at the time. We never had a unanimous vote to support the 12-team playoff. Even though I was involved in that work, that didn't mean everybody in this league, when we were at 14, thought it was the best idea. But you engage in that type of problem solve. We have to make a decision. The CFP and my colleagues have to understand there's something different here. We all play college football. And so while you ask that of me, I'll go back and say, we didn't need a 12-team college football playoff. Thought it was good for the game. I was involved in that. Others held it up. I thought it was important to get after that work in a time-efficient manner, yet we held up, and then we went fast. We didn't go slow so we could go fast. We didn't do anything, and then we went fast without solving some of the other elements. I think I have a responsibility to push as well. And I think my membership has a responsibility and the desire to push me. And that is a hard issue. If you want to go inside what it's like to sit in this role, I think about the responsibility I have here. I think about the responsibility more broadly all the time. And when I go back to the college football playoff, I'm open to ideas. There's just not a lot of incoming. My phone's not ringing off the hook with, hey, here's another way to look at it. And so we'll continue to be thoughtful. We'll continue to try to provide perspective and information to our members and help them guide the decision. And ultimately, I recognize I'm the one who ends up typically in front of the podium explaining not just myself, but ourselves.
I heard a lot of I and a lot of me and a lot of my in that 2.5-minute clip from Greg Sankey, the SEC. We're not saying his job is easy, but most of the reaction, and I don't know what it has been with you, that's why we're about to hear from Paul and Craig and me as well, was, who in the hell do you think you are? Yes, it's a powerful conference. He's got a great job and all that, but my God, it seemed like there was a lot of Greg Sankey saying like he's the emperor without saying that you have to kiss his ring.
I read it. I mean, there were a couple things he said that I thought were like, okay, buddy. Now, there's a lot of things and there's a lot of nuance to what he said in relation to the playoff. He did say, one, that like he thought, like when, and this is in response to this good of the game, that he thought the 12-team playoff was for the good of the game, and that's why he did that, which is why I think he took umbrage with feeling like he was lectured on the good of the game, but also your actions, Greg. Now, Tony Petitti's part of this too and says nothing, which I think was part of that. Like, I'm the one who comes up here and answers the questions. Part of that is, yeah, they said that because the good of the game does not mean automatic qualifiers and all these other things that you guys are trying to bake in that you just kind of steam ahead and don't care about everybody else, just to kind of everybody else's detriment but your own, which is nobody else really has that power like the two of you do. So some of it I thought was a lot of perspective, and then some of it was he got angry because he didn't like what they said.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably right in talking about how there's not a lot of other ideas coming from other places. Mm-hmm. So if you want me to do something different or back something different, why don't you come to the table with something different that's worthwhile to chew on? Mm-hmm. How about that? And it doesn't sound like anybody's really doing that. So to his point, that would probably help matters. But I also don't think that there's anything anybody's going to be able to bring that he's going to want to chew on. I mean, what are the Big 12 and the ACC going to bring to the table that's not already been discussed? And we know that giving them 2 automatic qualifiers is already a tug of war as it is, and 3 was just completely just, I mean, that basically seems like it was just the most pointless gesture.
Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
Because there's little to no chance that's going to be accepted by people like him. So there's their ideas. Hey, we would like more representation. No, I don't like that. I don't know what other ideas they can come up with outside of just, well, if we want to get 3, let's go with a 24-team playoff. I mean, that's all you can do if you're them. If you want representation and you're looking for ideas, Greg, they're looking for how they can get more teams in, just like you're looking how you can get more teams in. And the only way that everybody can come to an agreement how to get more teams in, apparently, is to keep expanding the field. So therein lies a problem there, that no one's really wanting to work with each other to probably do what's best. Everybody's looking out for their own self-interest, which has been the theme of college football basically forever, but especially in these last 2 to 3 years. So I can see where that's frustrating because you want what you want and you don't necessarily think others deserve what they want. So I don't know what they could come to the table with that's actually going to get a conversation out of him. Like, what could they present him with that would keep the conversation going or moving? I'd be interested to know that from him. I don't feel like there was really a lot of follow-up that I saw in terms of the SEC reporters and coming to, further delve into anything that he said. Everything that I saw headline-wise was Sankey unloads on Big 12 ACC. Sankey goes scorched earth on Big 12 ACC. And it was the same quote, just in every article, just a different tagline. But I never saw well, impressed by the so-and-so, he expanded and said, this is why he doesn't get in. So he's just saying something that's pretty vague that we don't know because we're not in those meetings. So I don't know what to say on behalf of the Big 12 and ACC other than, I guess, come up with better ideas. But I don't know what you could do that he'll respond to. What? So that's the first big problem. The second problem is he is a sensitive little boy in this clip, man. We said on Friday when the Big 12 and the ACC released their statements, it sounded like, oh, man, it sounded like they've been talking to each other because it was almost word for word the exact same thing. And the most common thread in those statements was the good of the game. And we talked about how that's probably smart on the Big 12 and ACC's part to be somewhat coordinated with each other because, boys, you're on an island by yourselves right now. So there's little to no hope that you're getting off without the help of one another. So you probably need to start coming together and figuring out what you can do to have somewhat of an alliance of sorts to just battle little battles where you can. And so in the case of last week, for them both to come out, both commissioners, and say the similar thing of, hey, doing what's good for the game, that ruffled his feathers clearly. Mm-hmm. That really, he has, I think, his ears out, and maybe if it's not him, it's like his assistant or somebody that's paying attention to what people say. You can tell they hit a sore spot with the good of the game line because that's the one that he dwelled on, and that's the one that's been kind of hanging around these past couple of days as it's been discussed. So, that hit a sore spot, that hit a nerve, I should say, and I think they need to hit it over and over again and keep hitting it because clearly it got a rise out of him. Now, maybe the reaction's not quite what you were looking for. I don't know. But it did get a response out of him, and it led to all this audio. So I think they did something right there. And I guess the main point would be there wasn't a coordinated statement in that they both left the meetings and said, hey, we're going to drop this at 3, and then you go at 3:15. If Greg or his satellite ears that roam around looking for headlines that people are talking about him, they'd understand that specifically in one of those statements in the article itself said, statement, in response to questioning by ESPN. Yep. So they were answering a question from a reporter, and that was their statement, Greg. It wasn't, Endeavor going off and just out of nowhere going, here's Brett Yormark on Greg Sankey's playoff plans. No, it was them answering a question from an outlet. Like it said in the article, you or whoever reads those for you missed that part. And that's where I think he got way over his skis. And that's when you clearly see how much that nerve got touched.
He did. And he was so sensitive. Here's Clark Williams, who has done a really good job for the Big 12. And he, of course, works under the leadership of Brett Yormark. This was in response to Sankey on the coordinated, whatever he said, press releases. There was no press release from the Big 12, let alone a coordinated one with the ACC regarding straight seating. So there was the Big 12. So here's we don't change it. It just seems like nothing has changed. There's still the arguments. I wish we could get to a finality on a lot of different things and not just the college football playoff. But Paul, does he make a point? Is there anything of what he said? You kind of alluded to a couple of things. Anything from what you heard from Sankey, and that was only 2 things out of like 2 minutes out of 50, that made sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, look, to kind of echo Craig a little bit, yeah, he says they're not coming up with ideas, but the bottom line is like there's 2 ideas, Craig. There's your automatic qualifier idea at 16, and then there's 5 plus 11. So which one do you want? Now, what he did say that makes sense to me with all that is because in this we didn't get into as much, but about the strength of schedule. He basically said with 5 plus 11, you are saying that only the record matters, not the who happens in the record, which I don't agree with. And then he was saying with the automatic qualifiers, then who we play does matter more. So I would like to continue playing those games. So that would be the benefit to it. He was basically telling everybody, pick your poison on what happens. Either way, the SEC is going to get theirs.
Yeah, they are. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is whether they go to the left or to the right, I don't get the whole act of like they're being threatened somehow. That's the part I don't jive with when they act as though they're being pushed out of the way or people are trying to attack them or cut them off at the knees. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't, if you're everybody, Greg, except for you and Tony Petitti. Like everybody else is like in this position. And I've talked about it multiple times of, I don't get paid the millions of dollars Brett Yormark gets paid. So I'm glad that I'm not in that position, although I'd be glad to get paid millions of dollars to make those tough decisions. So you want to give me that salary, I'll make the right choice that I feel like I can make. But if you're Brett Yormark right now, it's like, yeah, you're between a rock and a hard place. You're like, what do we give up to still have this access and this representation? Or do we call their gamble and then we're left out in the cold entirely? Like right now you have some level of say still. You're not going to have ultimately a lot of say in the final decision-making, but you have more say than every other college commissioner out there, not named Greg Sankey or Tony Petitti. And you have the exact same much as Jim Phillips, right? So you're one of like the top 4 commissioners. And so you do have something more than a lot of the others have, ultimately not a deciding factor, but your voice is heard in the room. And how much do you want to risk that? And then you risk the Big 12 not having 2 automatic qualifiers, which in a 16-team field, as many people have pointed out, they wouldn't have had 2 teams in the playoff. Right? They would have been like BYU was like 17th or something like that. So they still would have ended up with the same. So that's whereas like you have this tough decision of like automatic qualifiers actually does make sense. Like you're guaranteed 2, whereas before you're not guaranteed. Even in an expanded field, you're not guaranteed 2. Whereas on the flip side, it's like you want to do it a different way. I don't know. It might be better. It might be worse. So they're in a tough spot. SEC is not a tough spot. They're going to get theirs regardless. And so, it's kind of hard to be lectured by a guy who's the king of the castle and is already getting as much as he wants and is still looking for more. And then the moment you try to point out, well, maybe you're being a little bit selfish, he absolutely loses his mind as much as somebody in his position will lose their mind at the podium.
There's a couple of stats we're going to get to in a moment from Brett McMurphy. Paul, real quick.
Yeah, I do think that the I'm the one who's out here in front of the microphone.
Yes.
That was his like, hey, Tony,
yeah,
are we in this together or not, bruh? Like, I'm out here taking bullets, and you're just back there going like, I did. I'm in Chicago.
I read a pretty in-depth article over the weekend from Stuart Mandel that Petitti is the one that has actually come up with one of the ideas.
He's the AQ guy.
Yeah.
He's the AQ guy. Sankey actually has never really been for that, knowing that, and we'll get into this in a second, that without AQs, he's more likely to get more. Without, when you have to go through and go top 4, top 2, top 2, because it's not about the 4 AQs he's going to get. It's about those ones that Craig was talking about, not Greg, that Craig was talking about, the Big 12 wouldn't have gotten to last year. Yeah. So those would have gone to a team like Alabama or Ole Miss or whoever. But, part of it needs to be, look, I know that you think you're doing what's best for college football, or it's in your mind, but you really do, have to stop acting like a dictator in all this, because what Greg Sankey says and what he does don't always jive. And he serves at the pleasure of 16 university presidents that the mission directive is F those other guys. They don't care. So if he walked into the room, I do think if he walked into the room, in the SEC room and said, look, I tried for all this, but we really I think for overall the good of the game, for every conference, including us, we're going to have to take a little bit of a step back, but it's not going to really hurt us that bad. the overwhelming majority of people in the room would ask him, then what do we pay you for? Because they don't have that goal.
Brett McMurphy, teams per conference based on the current alignment that would have qualified the past 11 since it began college football playoffs if only the top 16 seeded teams received bids. The Big Ten, 56, SEC, 53. They're getting their teams in. They're getting what they want most of the time. Yes, oh my God, Alabama, who replaced an unbeaten Florida State 2 years ago, didn't get in. And we'll have a quote from Kalen DeBoer about that in a minute. Notre Dame 8, the ACC and Big Ten, ACC and Big 12 about the same. A slight edge there to the Big 12. The group of 6 had 6. One other note on this right here. In a proposed 4-4, 2-2, 1-3 college football playoff format, auto bids for the 4 major conferences and for the group of 5. And then, of course, you also have the at-large. How many teams based on current leagues would have made the 16-team playoff in the last 11 years ranked outside the top 16? Paul, explain what they're saying here.
Okay, so these are the teams that to fill the automatic qualifiers that you would have had to go outside the top 16 over this time, over these 11 years to get. So in total, it is 15 teams. 7 of them from the group of 6, 3 from the ACC, 3 from the SEC, 2 from the Big 12, and none from the Big 10, which is probably what makes them feel justified in saying that we should get 4 automatic qualifiers, because we would have never had to go outside of the top 16 to get our 4. We would have always had 4 every year in the top 16, as where the Big 12, even the SEC, to get to 4, like last year, they would have had to go outside of it. Quite potentially. The ACC 3 different times to get to that second team. The Big 12 twice to get to that second team. The group of 6, 7 times just to get to their 1 because of how the rankings fall. So this kind of sheds light on the argument of how many times over 11 seasons you would have to go outside the top 16. I think this makes the argument that you're not getting the best 16 teams every single year if at least once a year you have to, if no more, 15 times in 11 years, more than once a year, you have to go outside to fill your qualifiers.
Yep.